on how we use big data technologies at Vodafone to extract location insights out of mobile network data. I would like to start by saying thank you to the organizers for having us. First, a little bit about me. My name is Gerardo Lastra, and I'm a data scientist at the international branch of Vodafone Business, where I've been working on the project that I'm about to present since 2018. And a little bit about Vodafone as well. Most people know us as a provider of consumer connectivity products in many markets across the globe. But we also have a business-oriented division where we don't just provide connectivity to enterprise customers and public administrations, but also other products and services. One of these is our location insights product called Vodafone Analytics, which aims to monetize mobile network data that is generated as part of daily operations in any of the 21 countries where we offer mobile connectivity. Going back to the title, this talk is about big data, but how big is our mobile network data? As an example, for a single country, in this case the UK, we can see over 25 million mobile devices on the network, generating over 1 billion events daily, each of them tied to one of 200,000 network cells. Where do those events come from? Some of you might be familiar with CDRs and XDRs, billable events that are generated by cell phones. These are active and quite sparse, meaning it is hard to track customer mobility relying on them alone. Another source of events are SDKs. In this case, we have our own in-house SDK integrated with the My Vodafone app across markets that passively reports precise GPS tag data. The drawback here is the relatively low penetration, as not everyone installs our app on their device. The most recent addition to our data sources are network probe feeds. These specialized network hardware units report almost everything that happens on the network passively, including the subscriber ID and cell ID fields, and have a full penetration on all devices on the network, including roamers, since they run on the network infrastructure. This is by far the best data source that we have available, and it accounts for most of the numbers that I showed earlier. Given these events, we aim to answer these 5 key questions in our analysis. First of all, where? We can target anything that can be converted to a polygon on the surface of the Earth, but work mostly with official government administrative boundaries and quad-key grids. We can achieve a granularity of around 100 meters in most areas, and even finer on highly populated urban areas. When? We can analyze different timeframes with a multidimensional labeling approach to time. Who? We can count unique visitors to an area and timeframe, and can disaggregate them by sociodemographic and behavioral attributes, or home and work locations. Results are scaled so that they reflect the behavior of the general population and not just the Vodafone population. How? We can also see how people do repeat visits to locations, how long they stay in the area, or what speed and direction they move at when they pass by the location. And finally, why? We know whether a visitor is a resident or works in the area, or visits the location frequently, or even if they are a tourist who temporarily stays nearby or is there just on a day trip. So how do we do this? We can identify 3 pillars to our solution that was built in partnership with Carto. Data collection and data science both happen inside Vodafone, including aggregation and anonymization of the data, while Carto is in charge of providing the insights to our final customers through a visualization platform. Here, you can see a screenshot of the platform, with data for the city and region of London in the UK. We can see footfall data on level 17 quad-key grids, which have 300-meter sites for the month of January 2020. The data is filtered to show international visitors only, revealing 2 distinct hotspots, the city centre and the London Heathrow Airport, with the different terminal buildings lighting up. Generating population-wide insights from our data poses certain challenges. First, we need to scale the absolute results obtained from our customer population to reflect the behavior of the general population. This is not as simple as dividing by our market share, as our sample is biased with regards to the general population in terms of age and gender, and also geographically. Then we need to ensure that the devices we include in our analysis are representative of what actual people do. For this, we need to remove some devices, such as IoT. We must also understand that the person who is registered as owner of the mobile line is not always the person who is carrying the phone around, introducing problems when determining age or gender for that specific visitor. And lastly, measuring the accuracy of our solution is far from trivial. And the same happens when assessing whether a change in our processes is for the best or not. One of the key concerns when it comes to location insights is privacy. We guarantee privacy by design by applying three principles. First, personally identifiable fields, such as phone number, SIM card identifier, and IMEI, are pseudonymized on ingestion into our big data environments. Second, we allow customers to easily opt out of our analysis, meaning that their network events are never used. And third, all the data that leaves Vodafone is always aggregated and anonymized by ensuring that the count of people for a specific record of location, time frame, and attributes is always above a certain threshold. This slide gives a brief overview of our efforts in terms of international presence, including markets where the product is currently live and serving customers, countries where we are actively working on its technical deployment, and countries where we have started talks with local Vodafone teams that wish to start monetizing their data. We have built a scalable product that is easily deployed to new markets in the face of challenges such as data and infrastructure heterogeneity. Luckily, all the big data environments used by operating countries within Vodafone are either AWS, GCP, or on-premise Cloudera or Hadoop clusters. This means we can use Spark, and our solution is built using Python and Scala code on top of it. Aside from the different algorithms and ETLs, we have developed our own modular execution framework for optimized data dependency management. In doing this, we have put our focus on DevOps and software engineering best practices, something that might not be all that common in data science teams, but that has really helped us get to where we are today. And that is everything I wanted to cover today. For further information, you can check the public Vodafone Analytics product website or simply shoot me an email. You can find my address in the first slide of this presentation. Thank you all very much for listening, and I hope this leaves plenty of room for questions, as I'm sure there will be many of them.
We have a couple questions in the chat here for you. So let's see where's the best place to start. Charlie Roldan asked, how do you turn... Sorry. Sorry about that. So Charlie Roldan asked, how do you turn Vodafone data into an end population representativeness?
Okay, that's a really good question. So yeah, as I said in the bias correcting slide and the different challenges that we have, we do have a sample that is from 20 to 30 something % of the population, depending on country. And we aim to give insights that are representative of the whole country to our customers. So in order to do this, what we do is look at how representative each person inside the Vodafone population is with regards to the total population. So we take, for example, census data, where we have age and gender, counts of people per, for example, zip code. And then we look at our own customers, their age and their gender, and where they live. And we try to calculate more or less a representativeness value for each of those visitors.
Awesome. Charlie had a follow-on question there. Is Vodafone Business Services available in Argentina, CDR specifically?
I am not able to answer that question right now, but feel free to shoot me an email and we'll check it.
All right, no problem there. We have another question about your talk. Is this GDPR compliant? How do you ensure there is no individual privacy breach?
Right, yes, this is GDPR compliant on different levels. The first one is that this data that we use is captured as part of our business because we needed to be able to offer connectivity to people. So it's not extra data that is somehow collected. So since this happens, we have some kind of fair use to that data as long as we retain anonymity and so on, and privacy. So we do the anonymity and privacy by aggregating data, never exposing data for less than individuals, never leaving Vodafone premises, let's say. And regarding the data breach, well, the data processors, it's always us. I mean, all the aggregations, analysis, etc., happens inside Vodafone. And the only thing that leaves and is then fed into the Carto infrastructure for visualization is the aggregated and already anonymized insights. So there is not a possibility for data breach.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure everyone can take a deep breath now. All of the data is safe, private, and anonymized.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Sorry, just one last thing. And you are able to opt out from the analysis as well if you are not happy with us doing this.
There you go. Even better. Andres Amaya Chavez asked, what would be an effective pathway to follow on becoming a strong spatial data scientist? considering civil engineering, some academics on data science and mapping, and also some GIS knowledge with professional experience?
Well, I think
A
that's a
loaded
really
question
tough
there.
one for me. Yeah, well, to be honest, my academic experience is computer science, just that, and then I did a master's in artificial intelligence. So everything else came from work experience, not really academic experience. But I'm sure in the networking, there's much to talk about this.
Gotcha. And kind of a follow-on actually to our last question from David Stephanie is, what percentage of your customers opt out of sharing data? And what impact does this have on your model accuracy?
Right. Yeah, that's a really good one. So, quick anecdote here. There was a newspaper piece 2 years ago where a newspaper in Spain basically talked about our product and competitor products as well. And from that day to the next, the opt-out increased like tremendously because everyone was concerned that their data was going to be exposed to the public. Well, yeah, the public view on this is sometimes um, a bit biased as well because they think we are going to sell your exact location or how you move during the day, and it's always aggregate. But anyway, regarding the opt-out numbers, I think we could say something like 3 to 5% of the customer base. And we also fight that bias by, let's say, not counting them for anything, not even for our bias corrections. So by removing them from there, we basically reduce our sample and treat them as if they weren't Vodafone customers.
Got it. Thank you. I think we have time for one more. Anita Grazer said, please elaborate on how you deal with the challenges regarding uncertain demographic information. How do you identify that the phone is not used by the person the SIM is registered to?
Yeah, that's the third line in that slide. So that's a really tough one. Another anecdote here, we did an analysis for our tests in order to check if the product was working properly for a music festival. And we saw that a lot of 50-year-olds were in the music festival. But what happened was that they were the people paying for the phones. And actually the people going there were the young people whose parents were paying for the phones. So we try to fight this by using machine learning models that try to predict whether the age that is associated to a mobile line is correct or not based on behavior. So we assume that the behavior for different ages is different, and we try to figure if a certain person is not behaving as they are supposed to be. As of course, there's false positives, false negatives, etc., but it tends to work.
Awesome. That's a funny anecdote. You were like, oh, something's a little off here. This crowd's a
Yes.
little older this year. But I think there might still be some other questions in the chat. So please, Gerardo, if you want to go in there and answer some of them, please feel free to, or go in Slack community again. There's also virtual booths here and hop in. But appreciate